and welcome to Salon Talks. I'm Dean Obeidallah, back for my second interview. I know, surprising some. Right here, here's my good friend.
I can't believe you got a second interview. It's
Most people
unbelievable.
This gentleman right here, Aasif Mandvi, you know him for a long time, the Brown correspondent on The Daily Show. You see him in movies, TV shows, HBO's The Brink. He played Terrorist 3, 4, and 5.
No, that's not
but
true.
Right now, you actually had a name when you
them.
had a terrorist. Right now, a reprisal of his great one-man show, and I say that sincerely. SAKINA'S restaurant down at Minetta Lane Theater till November 11th. Here is the playbill.
That's the playbill.
20 years ago. Aasif, my friend, first of all, thanks for coming on Salon
Thank you.
Talks.
Thank you for having me, Dean.
Sure. And this played 20 years ago.
Yeah.
At a time when the president was Bill Clinton. You know, all our friends had names like Monica and Chandler and Joey.
Exactly.
When you had to meet someone, you couldn't swipe right, you had to talk to them.
Yeah.
But you watch this now, and I'm telling you, it is more politically relevant than ever. So tell people a little bit about the play.
So the play is a series of vignettes that I play 7 different characters, all part of an Indian Muslim family that owns an Indian restaurant down on 6th Street in New York City. And I play the mother, the father, the daughter, the son, and then it's all narrated by this young this young immigrant that comes from India to America, and it's really the story of the immigrant experience in a sort of a collage kind of way, where I just play these vignettes of different characters, and you meet this whole family from different perspectives, and you get to experience their American dream and their American immigrant experience, and what that costs, and the joys and the heartbreaks of that, and it's that's what it is.
But when you wrote it, was it intended to be political? I mean, we're talking about 1998.
No. I mean, I wrote it as look, when I wrote the play, it was a way from, at that time in 1998, I was a young brown actor who just showed up in New York City, wasn't able to get parts. There were no, this was before Cal Penn and Aziz and all these guys, so this was like when there were no roles for brown actors. And I would go in for auditions, and it would be like, either I'd do like, white characters and they would be like, we're not going to cast you. Or they'd have like some taxi driver who was a cartoon. It was basically Apu, and that was it, So I was like, well, I'm going to just start writing characters that feel true to me, that feel true to my DNA, that feel like I never saw any representation of immigrants or brown people or anything in American theater or in television or anything. So I just started writing these characters, and I started working with the legendary acting teacher Win Handman in his acting class, and he helped me. He worked with like Rosamo and Bogosian and all these other people, and so he helped me shape these characters, and then we ended up doing it, and it was a story. It was semi-autobiographical, a story about the immigrant experience and what that meant, and about identity and all that stuff, and bringing it back now 20 years later, it does feel, like you said, weirdly more politically relevant today, because one of the things that happens is that the way you dehumanize people is you politicize them, right? Sure. And that's happening right now with immigrants and Muslims, and you take away their humanity, right? What this does, because it's a non-political play and it's just about the humanity of these people and their story, it's somehow, in this day and age and in the culture we're in today, it becomes a political act by showing a Muslim Indian family as human beings with their struggles and whatever. That in itself just becomes relevant and political in a way that I never imagined it would be.
It was also very moving, and like, I've known you for years. I've seen your acting. You're a very good actor, but when I saw you in the show, you were fabulous, because I never saw you do the female characters you bring to life in such nuance, they're three-dimensional. How was it, like 20 years ago you did this, you're a young guy, struggling, trying to make it. 20 years later, flash forward, a lot has happened. You've had some success, a lot of success, frankly. You're married, your mom has passed in that time. How does that impact you performing this show?
I think that I am, obviously, just older, and have had more life experience, like you said, and more things have happened to me. And I think that it's interesting, my friend Sakina Jaffrey, who many of you might know from House of Cards and other things, she came and saw the show, and she had seen it 20 years later. And of course, it's, she always complained that I had stolen her name for the title.
She did.
Yeah. She's like, and I was like, we'd have this conversation. I'd be like, Sakina's a real name. It's not just your name.
So you're not. There's no connection to that.
No connection.
You're working on a new one, the Obeidallah House of Food, which is no connection to me. Just randomly happens to be my last name.
There's like 3 Sakinas in my family. You know what I mean? So it's like
she told me
it's a relatively common name. But so anyway, she came and saw the play, and she made an interesting observation, which was that she felt like because I was more mature now, and I think perhaps everything has happened to me, like I was willing to lean into the sort of the heartbreak of it more than I did when I was a younger man. And I felt like, even in the audience, it feels like when we did it 20 years ago, it was lighter. Like there was something,
that's what she told me.
Like the country felt lighter, and it was lighter, and it's weird, and I hate to say this because as somebody who like values every laugh that I get, like I felt like it was funnier back then, and because it was lighter, and now it's funny, but it's also more like heavier and more heartbreaking in a way.
Is it less funny because you're playing it different, or is it less funny because the climate we live in? So we look at it through this prism of, when you say you're a Muslim immigrant, and there's a president who literally wanted a total, complete shutdown on all Muslims, when you talk about it, it instantly conjures up politics, and it conjures up Trump, even though Trump's not mentioned. There's no politics mentioned whatsoever.
No, and that's the thing. I think that resonance that happens in the audience, because of the time that we live in, they can't help but contextualize it, And also, I think I'm a more mature actor today, and I think that I probably, I mean, even like with Sakina, I play the daughter, when I think when we did it 20 years ago, there was probably a little bit more camp in it, and now I think that just even in terms of the Me Too movement and all that stuff that's going on in the gender politics that's going on in the world today, like you realize. In our rehearsal process, we started talking about this idea that Sakina, this young woman, is caught within a double male patriarchy, in the sense that, like, on one hand, there's the patriarchy of her father and who he wants her to be, and on the other hand, there's the patriarchy of the male culture, the American boyfriend and what he wants her to be, and she's stuck in this paradigm of like, do I disappoint my father by not being the girl, the Indian Muslim girl that he wants, or do I like lose my American boyfriend because I'm not, because I'm too much tradition, whatever, so but that, today, we talked about that in rehearsal because I have this wonderful director, Kimberly Senior, and all this Kavanaugh stuff was happening while we were in rehearsal, and suddenly this like occurred to me. I was like, oh, she's caught within like a double patriarchy sort of bind, as a woman, as a young immigrant brown woman, right? So that stuff did resonate.
So it impacts you as an actor, impacts the play, because it's a one-person show, and you carry everything. You do every character. Yeah. What about? To me, one of the takeaways of your play is this young girl, Sakina, is caught between two worlds, as you're saying, but her father tells her, the white Americans, doesn't matter you're born here, they're never going to accept you. Yeah. Do you think that's still true today, 20 years later?
Look, that is...
Are you accepted by white Americans? Do you have white friends?
I don't have any white friends. White friends...
I look white, but I'm not white.
You're my only white friend.
But I'm not white, though. I'm Arab and a Muslim. My last name has the word Allah in it. So I'm the whitest friend you have, and I'm not white. So
right, exactly. No, but like that speech that the father gives to his daughter in the play about, like, you think that you're accepted, but, you wait until... when things go down, that you're going to be Indian again. They're going to look at you like, right now it's all, but that is what my father used to say. Like those words are, that warning of like, listen, don't think that you are necessarily accepted because, in the play he says, once you steal one of their good old boys from them, you'll see, my girl, how quickly you will become an Indian again. Like the minute you cross that line, and we see it in our culture, and that kind of stuff I think resonates in the audience in a way that it didn't 20 years ago, which is that we see it in our culture, that there's been this, what did the guy on CNN call it, a white lash or something.
White lash, Van Jones called it white lash.
Yeah, Van Jones called it, this idea that like the Trump presidency is a reaction to integration and progressiveness and like sort of diversity and this idea that like, oh, you think you're accepted? You're not accepted. This country belongs to white people.
And your play is the quintessential story of the browning of America. You have brown people coming over here.
Yeah.
How much do you think that motivates Trump, the fear of the browning of America? Or is it just like white supremacists, just like he thinks they're nice people? Or do you think it's really motivated from a place of truly demographic fear of demographic change?
I don't think Trump is really motivated by... Trump himself, I don't believe, is motivated by anything but just what is expedient for him in the moment. Like, I think that he's just playing to the people that are in front of him right now, you know? And I think the danger is he takes no responsibility for any of things that he says. I think he sometimes doesn't realize that, like, people are actually like listening to him,
and
you know,
and targeting the same people he's targeting.
And so you got these people who go into a synagogue and kill these people, or go into you know, or send pipe bombs, and this is where we see the effect, the Trump effect. You know, it's not. Trump himself has no center. Like, I feel like I don't believe he has a ideology or a philosophy of anything other than just winning the moment. Every moment he's gonna like, I'm gonna win this moment right now. I'm gonna say the thing that I need to say right now, and then later he'll be like, no, I didn't mean that. He'll say the opposite, like he doesn't care. Like he'll say exactly the opposite, you know? If he wants to make up things, he'll make up things. So there's no, Trump himself is just kind of like, there's no there, you know? It's everything, all the people that he's given license to like follow through with their racist ideologies.
Look, I mean, let's be honest. If Donald Trump was an Islamic cleric who preached fiery sermons about targeting certain people or groups, and then his supporters went out there and sent bombs to those groups and tried to attack those groups, that cleric, Trump would be demanding that cleric be in jail.
Oh, yeah.
But we look at the
Trump
same.
is the best thing that ever happened to ISIS. Like, ISIS loves Trump. They love him.
And please explain.
And I think they, you know, like, it would not be surprising if they had
someone
like...
here from the Trump administration wants to talk to you about that statement. So, that was the best thing that ever happened to ISIS. Says Aasif, I distance myself completely from those comments. So why is Trump, tell me why.
No, because I think that the rhetoric that Trump got elected on was this kind of us and them rhetoric, this idea of like those people. Look, the whole rhetoric is, you've got problems, you think your life is bad, let me tell you who you can blame. Don't blame us, don't blame the government, don't blame like social programs or whatever it is you want to blame. Blame the jihadists, blame the Mexicans, you know. And so ISIS loves that. ISIS is like, yeah, blame us, because then we have further fire to fuel the fundamentalists on the other side of the world.
Too. You also make them more powerful by doing that. You're giving them the power they don't have.
Yeah,
that. Let me ask you though. You came here as an immigrant with your family. You came and you snuck in through a caravan.
I did.
As we know, because this is one of the most biggest things Donald Trump says. Middle Easterners, which he meant Muslims, are going to sneak in the caravan. So apparently Muslims are going to fly to Honduras and then march for 2 months to the Mexican border, as opposed to just flying to JFK.
You know what? No Egyptian is going to do that. No,
I have cousins. The Uber's 1 block away. They're not going to walk from the car.
They're not going to march with a bunch of Hondurans. It's just not going to happen.
But your family they chose the United States of America.
Yeah.
You were born in India, grew up a lot in the UK, came here. If your parents were thinking of moving, and you were a young man now, say you were 15, 16 there, they were thinking, what country should we move to? Would they pick the United States of America with the leader demonizing Muslims and immigrants this way?
I don't think, first of all, what's interesting is that, like, you know, Azgi in the play is the character that comes here, and I'm like, he couldn't come here today. Like, he would not be able to come here today. And I don't know if my parents would have come here in the same way that they did when we did in the 80s. Like, it was back then, it was like, you know, there was a sunrise happening in America. What was it Ronald Reagan said in the 80s? You know, like, there's a new day, and there was this kind of sense of opportunity, this kind of optimism that existed, and we came here for a better life. I don't think that exists anymore. I mean, most of my, if you're wealthy in India today, you're like, the last place you want to come to is America. You know.
And I just want to apologize to Salon viewers for him mentioning Ronald Reagan on this liberal network that we have. This unbelievable. We only mention Reagan in negative tones. No, I think about my dad. My dad was a Palestinian immigrant, Muslim, who came to America as a refugee.
Yeah.
Under Trump, he would at least in theory be banned. He would have been banned if Trump could have done the complete Muslim ban and stop all refugees.
Right.
But the question is, if my dad was looking for a better life, would this country, or would Canada perhaps, or the UK, if they were going to welcome him, be more of a place where he'd go like, I want to raise my family there, because knowing you're going to get married, which he did to my mom, was Italian-American, and start a life. how is it a great life for your kids if you're worried your kid's going to be beaten up because of their religion or demonized for their religion?
Or if you're just going to like not be able, you're going to get sent back home. You know,
you're not even accepted in the country.
And so, like, I don't think, you know, it's clear that now we live in this kind of very precarious state, especially around immigrants, and you know, and especially if you are on that sort of, you know, watch list of like, oh, you are potentially a threat to whatever that minority that has somehow taken control of our country, you know.
Has the Trump presidency and what we're seeing today, because you are an immigrant, I mean, you came here as a teenager.
Yeah.
Has it in any way impacted your view of what America is? Or about American people? Like the idea, like 65% of GOP voters supported a total complete shutdown on Muslims. 65% of Republicans. Yeah. That was eye-opening for me, let me put it that way.
Yeah. I mean, I think, look, the irony is that, and maybe I live in a liberal bubble, I don't know, I probably do.
You're on Salon right now.
But so exactly. So, but most of the people I feel like still in America, the majority of us do not have that viewpoint. You know what I mean? I still think that that Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, racism, these things are still primarily used as political tools, you know, to divide and to create, to sort of incite fear. And I think that they're used very effectively that way, you know, and you start to think that like everyone's an Islamophobe. I don't know if everyone's an Islamophobe. I think there are Islamophobes out there with loud megaphones right now, and they have a loud voice, and they are inciting that fear. And after 9/11, it got ratcheted up. You were there.
I had nothing to do with it.
You were on one
I had
of those
nothing to do with ratcheting up the fear of Muslims.
You were not. Oh, you weren't.
No, I did not. The guys saying I'm the Pam Keller.
They look like
they might look like me, oddly enough, but.
But you know what I mean? Like there was a definite ratcheting up of that fear of like, oh, this means that, and you know, even now, like every time there's like a shooting, a white guy goes somewhere with an AK-47 or something and blows people away, like we just saw the other day, like Americans are still more afraid that a jihadist is going to come over the border. More Americans are killed by other Americans with like semi-automatic rifles than they are by any jihadist. Like you're more likely to get struck by lightning than you are to get
crushed by a refrigerator, right? And last year, the ADL document there were 34 Americans killed on U.S. soil by extremists, 18 by white supremacists, 8 by a Muslim, which one guy right here in New York with a truck, one incident. Those 18 spread around the country. There's no reaction from the government. Like we need a war on white supremacist terrorism. They don't care because it's not useful for political gain.
It's not useful politically.
Demonizing us, especially people browner like you, frankly, because I look whiter, I can pass. That it plays well for their base, but. I knew that about America. I knew about Republicans. I've written about it. I never saw it to this level with Donald Trump, where he mainstreamed racism and bigotry. And I think that when you uncork anti-Muslim bigotry, you're also uncorking anti-Semitism. Because hate is hate. You let it out there. It's a genie out of the bottle.
Trump uses whatever means are available to him, right? So he's just a terrible person, and he will just use whatever means he has. So if it's racism, if it's bigotry, like it's violence, whatever it is he wants to incite, he will use that to rile up his base and to get the popularity vote. You know, like I feel like he's doing it in a way that nobody else has been able to. It's almost like because he has no moral center. He has no sense of. There is no personal ideology or philosophy. And we've seen this. And we live in New York. We've seen Trump for decades, and we know what he is. And so the fact is that
I think there's two ways of looking at it, frankly. There is this one where he has no ideology, has no idea what he's doing, or the other side is that he's completely diabolical and sinister and is doing this all by design. And I no longer know, because at first I agree with your sentiment. And as time has gone on, I'm like, he has to know. There's been a spike in anti-Semitic hate crimes. He has to know there's anti-Muslim hate crimes going on.
Well, I think he knows.
And some of my self-professed supporters, there's a point where it's no longer a game, where I'm like, you are doing this because you idolize some of these authoritarian figures in other countries, and you want to bring that to America.
Well, he may know what works. Like I think he knows what makes the tick go up. You know what I mean? Like the thing. And so he knows what works, and so he just keeps doing the thing that works. And if the thing that works is inciting fear and hatred and racism and bigotry, then that's what he's going to do. You know? Like I think, yes, at the end of the day, is Trump at heart an autocrat? He is.
Yes.
He's absolutely an autocrat. Like he would like to be a dictator, And look, he's a CEO of a company, like that's where he comes from, like that's an autocratic
a closely held company, not a publicly traded one. So it's just his family. He runs everything.
Exactly. So like he's a mob boss. He's an autocrat. Like that's who he is. And so he does identify
so I'm offended by that remark.
What's that?
I'm half Italian, so you can't say a mob. He's not a mob boss. Hey, you know, some people have asked the question. Actually, I have before asked you this question. If Jon Stewart had gotten under Donald Trump's skin. In fact, I shared an article yesterday from 2013 where Donald Trump attacked Jon Stewart using his real last name, and Jon Stewart said...
Jon Stewart has a real last name?
Yes, it's not Stewart. And Jon Stewart even said, look, he's trying to out me as a Jew to people.
Yeah,
but do you think if Trump... Look, my point is, Jon Stewart was unique. He really got under Trump's skin over the years. Trump had tweeted about it. If he stayed on The Daily Show right through the 2016 election, any chance you think he makes a difference?
I don't know. I mean, you know, I think the people who are voting for Trump and who care about wearing those MAGA hats are not watching The Daily Show. They didn't watch it then. They're not watching it now. They don't care. And that's the thing, is that what Trump has been really, really effective at doing is... look, Jon Stewart said in an interview the other day, I saw an interview with him and Dave Chappelle with Christiana Amanpour, and he was saying, like, I thought it was a joke. Like, when he came down that escalator and stuff, I thought it was a joke. I did not realize that this was going to be real, and this was, you know, and so I don't think any of us predicted the fact that Trump was going to be so successful in sort of inciting that base and that fear. And look, in a weird way, it's almost... Trump is almost the natural evolution of Obama. Like Obama, we all patted ourselves on the back and we all thought we were beyond racism, we were beyond it, we were liberal and progressive, and we elected a black man, and aren't we great, and aren't we just... And then suddenly the dark underbelly shadow of what Obama represented has now reared its...
wearing a MAGA hat.
It's now in the White House.
Last question here, my friend, because I'm intrigued by the idea of American dream. You mentioned it, your story, SAKINA'S restaurant is about someone's American dream.
Right.
And I am, despite all this, I'm still grateful to America because my dad was an immigrant. My grandparents were. But do you think the American dream has changed in 20 years since your play? Like, what is the American dream today to you?
I don't know what the American dream is today.
To you, what is it?
I mean, today, to me, it is the ability to... There is still that dream. There is still that idea that you can come to America and you can fulfill whatever that opportunity is that you hope that you can have in life, and you can, you know, America, I think, still holds that. I think we are at a place now where we have to question ourselves around our own... I mean, look, this idea of American exceptionalism that I think Americans hold very dearly is questioned around the world now. You know, is like, are we
under Trump?
Under Trump, and you know, are we? You know, we are, what are we, like 48th in education around the world? You know what I mean? Like we are not the exceptional country that we thought we were after World War II. And since World War II, up until I think like the 80s and 90s, I think there was this kind of sense of American exceptionalism that we were the beacon of freedom and light and hope and all that stuff. I don't think that exists anymore. And I think that we have to like try to figure out who we are and what, and look, one day Trump is going to be gone, whether he's going to go off in handcuffs or whether he's just going to be gone, you know, because and the debris of Trump, we are going to have to pick up and figure out what does our democracy mean and who are we in the world today, you know?
And we have an election coming up next week, which might be the first step in reclaiming the country or watching it go further
I mean, look, and
into a dangerous dark area.
The sad part is that there are more of us than them. There are the majority of Americans do not support Trump. That is just the reality. He got elected by a minority, and so the apathy that is our enemy, like in terms of like people not getting out there and
polls, which
voting.
are fake news, of course.
Of course, right.
Aasif, it was great seeing you, my friend. I hope you're done. It's great. SAKINA'S restaurant, Minetta Lane Theater, right through November 11th. It's a great play. It's challenging. It's moving, and I actually sincerely hope that in this time, in this climate, you tour the country with this. Because it's not political. No one could be upset with, oh, we don't want this kind of political Muslim here. It's moving, it's touching, and it's also a human story about Muslim immigrants in a time where Muslim immigrants are demonized by this administration in ways I never thought that my late father would have seen. I don't think he would have expected. But thanks very much, Aasif. Nice
Thank you,
chatting with
Dean.
my friend.
Thanks.
Thanks for tuning in.